Hi, Screwball82. I have just got finished watching Harry Brown. I was supposed to see it some time back, but just it's one of those films that took a while to get around to. I'm happy I saw it on DVD rather than at the cinema. I think it was quite a televisual sort of experience. Despite perhaps his best efforts, for the most part, I felt like it was pretty, didn't feel like a cinema movie. It was very much something that you might find on terrestrial TV. So, no doubt you know the basic story of Harry Brown, but Harry Brown is an ex-veteran who has lived a very gentle, calm life, and his friend is very scared of. They live on a council estate in London, where Michael Caine grew up, or where he comes from, and he himself is a ex-soldier, or has a similar background to Harry Brown, and so it didn't take a great deal for him to sort of relate to the. He was sort of born to play this character, really. Anyway, after what has obviously been a lot of harassment, and nearly dying due to what is effectively an attack on his home, Harry Brown's friend Leonard, although you don't see it at least initially, the news is that he has been killed. He's been killed by the thugs of the estate, who essentially control the underpass there, and it later turns out in the film, running drugs and general social disorder that we're all too familiar with via the news. And he's been killed because he, we presume, took them on and lost. I had a bit of a confused experience with Harry Brown. It opens with a sequence that I didn't think should be there. I didn't really get the point of the opening sequence. It then moves into setting up the Harry Brown character, and I liked all of that. I think Caine is superb. I really enjoyed, even cinematically, I like how it was this very quiet opening, calm, and a lot of nice little subtle touches that really work. And in fact, in the first third of the movie, there is a lot of that sort of stuff, this kind of subtle visual storytelling that I really enjoyed. Obviously, upon this guy Harry Brown has suffered a great deal of loss. Was obviously recently in his life, and the loss of his friend to these thugs is sort of the breaking point for him. His friend had already been to the police. Nothing was being done. And we launch into, a revenge flick. And therein is sort of one of the problems I had with Harry Brown. I thought that the film had a lot of potential to be a very intelligent, balanced movie. Unfortunately, I felt it kind of fell into too heavily into the revenge the revenge genre, and didn't really. I don't know if they aspired to give it brains, but it didn't really have the intelligence that I was kind of hoping for. And in the story, as it unfolds, you can see a lot of potential for intelligence. It's trying to So eventually, I don't need to say any more than that. Plot-wise, that's what it's about. It's a vengeance story on the part. That Harry Brown sets about taking, seeking revenge for the loss of his friend, the only person who was left in his life. Very sympathetic position, and sympathetic character, and you totally relate to it. The reason that it's set up is this idea, quite predictable. A bit, it's kind of akin to The Brave One, the Jodie Foster film, if you've seen that. The idea that nothing's really being done, and so it falls to vigilante violence to deal with it. The things I liked about the movie, Caine, obviously, is very, very good. Amongst the young cast, there are a couple of actors in it who share a very long, very, very, very uncomfortable, tense scene with Caine. And it's a scene when he's purchasing a gun from these drug dealers and arms dealers of the of the estate, and it's a very, as I say, very long, very uncomfortable. It was probably my favourite scene in the film. Superbly played, really genuinely scary, and that played out really well. There were certain scenes that I thought were powerful, emotionally upsetting. I thought that the finale to the film was very well done. I thought that the scenes that involved violence and were like one of the penultimate scene. I thought that the scenes that involved violence were very brave. They were quite unflinching, but not gratuitously or unnecessarily so. They were just sort of there and very real. I respected that. In actual fact, the emotional distress of the movie, for me, oddly, came more from the other stuff that's graphic about the film. And it's an 18 for a reason. If you're easily distressed by things like this, I wouldn't recommend it. But it does have some gang violence in it, and it has in it what you would expect a film that's quite unflinching in that regard to have. But it's the language that's used by some of these characters. It's the situation. There are certain things that are just worked in very well to really kind of put you on edge, and I sort of admired that. So on a scene-to-scene basis, I really enjoyed the writing of the dialogue. Was real. It was, as I say, the performances were good, and certain scenes were very powerful, very well played, and I as I say, I quite liked the working of the final, the finale of the movie. The problems I had with the movie were, I would say, equal to my praise for it. The movie felt like it had good intentions, socially conscious intentions. Could be seen as sort of a wake-up call and a warning. I saw echoes of something like A Clockwork Orange in it, to an extent, although Kubrick always said that was more of a fable, but nevertheless. There's clearly our answer to Taxi Driver in there a little bit. But my issue with it was that it all got a bit woolly and a bit rushed and a bit undissected when it came to the side of the law, the police, the investigation. There was a lot of room we got a very biased story, and I'm not suggesting for a minute, don't interpret that as being like, I think that somehow what these gang members do is okay or justified. I'm not suggesting that, but what I am saying is that, a bit like with a film like Eden Lake, if you've seen it, there was opportunity to really kind of delve into these people's backgrounds. What we got was kind of this vengeance flick of this guy who's getting lost in violence and getting lost in revenge, and that's one tale, but it doesn't really work when not balanced with, we all know that, there's all sorts of reasons behind violent behaviour now, and I would have liked to have seen the film be a bit more precise in its dissection of that side of it. Why the investigation isn't working. They touch on it briefly in one scene, and then it just goes away. They kind of don't come back to it. They focus more on the DI's belief that Harry Brown is responsible for the vengeance killings, and they focus on the zero tolerance of crime, and the uselessness of the police in very broad stroke terms, and they don't look at any of the economic family reasons for this disorder. They don't even really look at that side of it at all. And the woman who plays the DI, I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but I know her, and check it out on IMDb. Good actress, but not given anything to do. So you had basically, I think, a film with a lot of potential, and as I say, on a scene-to-scene basis, powerful, good performances, well-intentioned, but when one side of the film is very weak and woolly and kind of written sort of very, we'll rush this in. There's even, in the penultimate scene of the film, there's even a moment where, the DI basically has to summarise, it's almost like it's an afterthought. Then, we've got to explain, almost like what one of the major points of the film is in this short little monologue moment, and it all felt a bit rushed, and that on that side of things, it's almost like they hadn't thought all that side of it through. So a film that ultimately should have been a lot more intelligent than it was, is watchable. I enjoyed it for what it was, but I'm going to give it, because it was good performances and some of it was powerful, I'll give it 6 out of 10. And because the ending sort of surprised me, I'll give it 6 out of 10. My instinct is to say 5, but I'm going to give it 6 to be, generous. Recommend it if you're a Caine fan. It's no Taxi Driver or Clockwork Orange or anything I referenced earlier. But as I say, it should have been a lot more. It should have been a lot more exacting and bold and precise than it was in certain areas. But worth a watch. So there you go. Harry Brown, not one I'll be watching again, but I'm glad I saw it on DVD. 6 out of 10. See you later.